Alrighty, so hi everyone. Welcome back to the Presbyterian Outlooks page for another Facebook Live conversation. If you are new or if you have forgotten or you just want to know, my name is Jessie Littlejohn. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the social media producer for the Presbyterian Outlook. And today with me, I have a colleague of mine from National Capital Presbytery, the Reverend Becca Messman, pastor at Burke Presbyterian Church in Northern Virginia. And she is here, I'm very excited to say, to talk about the latest project that she is involved in. She wrote an article about it a few months ago for the Presbyterian Outlook called Faith250. And so, Becca, I'm just going to let you talk about it a little bit, tell everyone
Sure.
what it is, and what do we need to know?
Thank you, Jesse. And I'm a big fan of the Presbyterian Outlook myself, so glad to be able to have a platform like that and to share today. Faith 250. There are lots of places that are using the 250 number this year because the country, America, is celebrating 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. And so, about March of last year, a rabbi friend of mine, Michael Holtzman, called and was asking me, Bex, what are you doing July 4th of 2026? And I was like, are you kidding me? I don't know what I'm doing on Tuesday, much less a year and a half from now. And he said, I think we need to have some way for there to be a a way for people to talk about America, to celebrate America in some public way that looks more like breaking bread. What if we had this nationwide tapestry of either picnics or potlucks or barbecues or something where people are coming together because of faith, not because we are in our separate corners. And so Faith 250 came to be born. He had been part of a project in that synagogue where the synagogue had been divided, red and blue, people really pulling apart at the seams, nearly killed the whole synagogue. But they started studying what they came to call American scriptures, like they studied Torah in this kind of Chavruta process, which is a lot like Lectio Divina in our context. And they found that studying the Declaration of Independence, the America the Beautiful hymn, the poem on the Statue of Liberty by Emma Lazarus, The New Colossus, and What to the Slave is the 4th of July. Studying those words brought them together, healed the synagogue. And now we're doing that in communities and hoping to have that spread across the United States. And it's just been a powerful reminder that we all can talk to each other, and faith and civil conversation and being in the same room and coming from a soul place is it's something that we don't do near enough. And the founders of this country, um, they assumed that people had some place where they were going to talk about their sacred values.
Right.
And with that, as religious institutions fall away, we're not doing too well just working this stuff out in the anonymity of online.
Yeah.
So Faith 250 is about bringing people together to look at these documents that we share, but study them like we might do a Bible study together.
Yeah. And it's fully ecumenical, interfaith kind of situation.
All faith, no faith, happening in places of worship so that we can remind people this is not a library. This is not a bring your pre-written talking points. We're in bring your spirit, bring your heart, bring your personal stories, bring your soul to the conversation.
I'm curious about, like, obviously, Declaration of Independence, these founding documents that kind of we're diving deeper into, but also, Frederick Douglass and the hymn "America the Beautiful," I think, was written in 1893. So Also gaining a lot of popularity because of Brandi Carlile.
Brandi Carlile.
Who just said it is more of a hymn than just, a patriotic song. So I love that you framed it that way. I'm curious if you know sort of the motivation why these 4 essential documents or speeches or hymns were what were chosen versus, Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death by Patrick Henry or the Gettysburg Address or even Dr. King or President Obama and Yes We Can. Like what were these documents that why did we dive into these ones?
So actually there are resources on all of those.
Okay.
So Gettysburg Address, for example, we're going to take that up on May the 7th in this kind of National Day of Prayer. Everyone, let's look at the Gettysburg Address. But faith250, just to roll it out across the country, picked 4 just to make it more bite-sized and to have some representation, where in each of those conversations it's going to bring up some of the issues that are still very relevant to us now. The Statue of Liberty and the poem that's on top of it. And are we living into those values already and not yet? Declaration of Independence. Who wrote it? What were they upset about? Are we still upset about those things? Yes or no? America the Beautiful. We know the first verse, but all of us, when we sing it in worship, we go, oh my gosh, how about verse 2?
Right. Yeah.
Thy soul with self-control, thy liberty and law. Yes, please. Let's bring this to the fore. So a nod to simplicity that also has diversity. So Catherine Lee Bates was probably a lesbian, and Emma Lazarus, Jewish, and Frederick Douglass, gosh, for him to be able to claim the liberty from being born in enslavement. I mean, so trying to include people, even though it's going to be messy in the conversation.
And it doesn't seem to me like this is an exercise of just, oh, we love our country and let's just talk about how much we love it. It is that sort of that tenet of that goes back to Frederick Douglass's speech of, I love my country and therefore I am allowed to critique it. And I am allowed to sort of bring myself back to what are the tenets of my faith and what are the tenets of the values of our country. And so is that in there as well, this sort of like this love and compassion that is rooted in this necessity for let's hold ourselves accountable to what we say.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're, as church people, we know that when we read scripture, we have not met the mark.
Yep.
And yet it doesn't mean that we don't still read it. We don't say, well, boy, we haven't really done those Beatitudes in a while, so we're just not going to do it.
Right.
We know that's our standard, that's our mark. And as Americans, for us to be able to read and realize that we still share that. We still have that as sacred.
Right.
And then it does give a space for people to say, I don't know that we're living into that. Or here are ways that we are, and here are ways in current events where I wish we did more, where we're not getting there. And then even just the documents themselves coming forth in a particular way by particular people in a time of history, you can talk about that. You can say, gosh, who was independent in 1776? What sort of cost did those founders end up enduring? They came together to fight a big war. And not everyone was independent even after that.
Right.
So I think it allows a place for us to come and talk about words from slightly less defensive postures. And also bring our faith into it.
Yeah. It's this, I mean, I think it sounds to me like what this is a call to confession and reconciliation. That's part of our tradition as Presbyterians. So, It sounds really quite lovely. Um,
And some of the how, I don't think that most people in our country are as concerned about what. We all say we want to love this country. And
mhm,
not, and you know, even if you're really mad and not sure you want to sing that hymn right now,
yeah.
people still love their land, and even if it's a little bit of a lover's quarrel right now. But we don't know how to come together. And
Mm-hmm.
I think people of faith are not really well known for being able to get together. If anything, we're like the most segregated hour of the week, as MLK said. We're, you know, dividing and dividing and dividing. So, how do we, as faith leaders, actually come forward together?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is a program.
Mm-hmm.
You get your community of faith leaders together, and that may be the first time they've ever had a meeting that's been substantial. Maybe you've been in meetings with the local rabbi, you've seen the imam, you know some of the LDS
Yeah.
faces around, but you get together and you're like, well, what do we talk about? This is a great way to take the conversation deeper
Mm-hmm.
and bring up some things that are really powerful, deep, even controversial
Yeah.
within a frame.
Right.
So, and then once the clergy have done that in their little local community group, then they bring their congregations together and say, all right, here's what we're doing, people.
Mm-hmm.
We had our first community meeting with all the congregations on Tuesday night, and we had 170 people
Wow.
from 14 congregations, all these different faiths come together. And we talked about the Statue of Liberty, and it was beautiful. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that we could do it, that we did do something. I mean, people came in and they were like, I didn't know what to expect. And they left feeling hopeful,
Right.
proud, like they loved America more.
Yeah.
Or they just love their neighbor. They just like, I love you. I want to see, let's get together next month. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the plan.
So I want to talk a little bit about the article because I found it very striking. Sort of the motivation behind some of what you were talking about. And you mentioned in the article that you wrote for us that there's just this absence of words right now, absence of conversation. And I know that's part of what is motivating this program and this project. But you said something to the effect of that there was there's shock value of cruelty has that the shock value of cruelty has overwhelmed our spiritual fluency. And I want to know if you can talk a little bit more about of what spiritual fluency is there a way to regain our spiritual
Hmm.
fluency? What this program and this project will allow in that? If you could just
Hmm.
elaborate a little, that was so striking to me the way that you said
Mm. Um, I think we're all people of words. You know, we say the word made flesh. Words matter.
that. Mm-hmm.
And I think in the last, gosh, I don't know how long, I can't say when it started, words became loaded,
Mm-hmm.
words became triggering, words became minefields. Every preacher knows that feeling of like, gosh, how did you hear that in what I said?
Yeah.
And you retreat, and then there's things you can't say, or you say one thing and it's taken another. And that just limits, that has an effect on our imagination when you limit the vocabulary.
Right.
When you can't, when some people say justice and they're excited about it, and other people think justice means you're on team blue.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't say righteousness without it having a tone,
Mm-hmm.
um, then we all lose. We
Right.
all lose. And so, how do we get back into the full thesaurus, the
Yeah.
full dictionary that we need to really express human relationships with God, with each other? Um, I mean, I love how all of our founding peoples, they were brilliant writers. Like I sit down and I read and I'm like, this person wrote this on paper
Mhm.
without a pen. I mean, whoa, this is
Without ChatGPT helping them.
no, they knew those words and
Yeah.
it came out of their head and that paper was really expensive, so it was probably like draft one.
Yeah.
How in the Sam world did they do that? Um, and I also have read 1984,
Mhm.
um, where one of the jobs was shrinking the language,
Yeah.
newspeak.
Right.
If and what they found was if you can make people have less words, they have less ideas, they have less imagination,
Mhm.
and I don't think people do that naturally. I think we are words meaning making creatures, and so when we come together, we just want to talk, and we need people who are different from us to be able to tell us what we might mean and what we might not mean.
Mhm.
No, I don't think that's what I meant. And we elaborate. And so I just love being able to elaborate
Yeah.
and correct and apologize and ask questions. And I think the internet and texting and media that says, no, you've only got 120 characters, you've only got a picture.
Yeah.
Um, I think that contributes to the shrinking of our not just our language that we type out with thumbs, but the imagination that empowers.
Yeah. Or even, just our retention of everything now has to be so quick and you have to be able to grab somebody, even in a sermon. And I mean, I do pulpit supply around our presbytery, and I am thankful that it's not every Sunday. I don't know how pastors do it every Sunday. And
Yeah.
such a time as this, I imagine that some of this experience for you, Becca, and I don't want to speak for you, but I imagine that some of it has almost been healing in a way
Oh,
of find if I don't have words. I don't know how to talk about this. So let me gather with this community and let me
mhm,
just listen so I can hear
mhm.
other people. Is that true for you? Does that resonate for you at all?
Absolutely. It is healing to sit at a table and maybe we know experiences when something that we've typed and sent into the internet has been poorly received, or we think it will be, so we don't even bother to share that thought because we're like, uh-oh, that might get a bad reaction from an anonymous person. Um, a real person, if you screw it up and you say, oh, immigration, and someone says, my family is from Africa, I don't even really think the word immigration applies
Mm-hmm.
to us. Um, so, but then you're met with grace, and there's just a, okay, yeah, tell me how would that be for you? And
Yeah.
then someone says, my family is Cherokee. So when it comes to celebrating the birthday of the United States, I have a different feel about it. I love this country, but I don't know what 250 means.
Right.
And then but there's not this like reaction, you know, frowny face, wow,
Mm-hmm.
boo.
Right.
It's a human face that has all kinds of different layers. And honestly, that's what I think we're all craving. Like I want to hear what you say, and you can correct yourself
Mm-hmm.
if you feel like you've kind of backed into, wait, no, no, no. Gosh, I don't think I thought about it that way until right now. Thank you.
Yeah. And it sounds like, and you wrote about it in your article, that the reason you all are doing sort of the clergy first and then community is I think you named it as the clergy are sort of the first responders. They're trained to recognize when words are being used to heal and when words are being used to harm. And so it sounds, just in the way that you've described it, that there's a space for accountability, there's a space for mistakes, but there's also space to recognize that
Mhm.
clergy as well are using words in harmful ways. We
Yeah.
using the scriptures, using these documents, and so it's, I think, I'm thankful that you all are gathering together, not behind screens, not behind keyboards, but together to be able to say let's talk about this. Let's have a
Mm-hmm.
real conversation about this, because your words aren't just something on a page; they affect real people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do we have those conversations?
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine it's not going to be easy for you all to sort of sit in that space, but I hope that something very beautiful will come from it, and that it will be able to be something that you can expand further into your community. Um,
One thing back to the first responders metaphor, Jesse, when Katrina happened and there
mhm,
was a natural disaster, they found that the people who were able to use their bodies and their time and their day to go rescue their neighbors had far less trauma than the
mm,
people who were stuck in the dome, unable to respond.
right.
And I think we're all experiencing this like big sense of crisis and disaster.
Mhm,
And we want to respond. We want to help our neighbors. We want to come together. And when we feel powerless and are like, I don't know what to do right now, I do not know what to do
right.
that will make things better. I think it kind of cements this anxiety, this trauma in our bodies. And the best thing about just saying Faith 250 is here's what we are able to do. We
Mhm,
are able. We are able to, maybe the clergy are in this boat and we're taking our our trust in each other forward. We're going to gather these words that are floating down the river back up, and now people, here's what you get to do. You don't just sit idly by and be mad behind a screen. You
mhm,
come face to face with someone who they don't agree with you on everything,
mhm,
but you both want to live together. And it always goes better with coffee and cookies. And so let's do just the doing something rather than saying no. I mean, saying no is super important. And all of us are finding our times to draw the boundaries, but you can't just say no. You have to have something that you're going to do
mhm.
to build.
Yeah. Um, Thank you. I put your faith250.org website in the comments. So if you're
Awesome.
watching, please make sure you click on that and get more information. I also put Becca's article about Faith 250 that she wrote for a Presbyterian Outlook in the comments as well. So please make sure you go back and read that. Becca, what do we need to know about how to get involved? What's coming up? What should we have on our calendars, on our radar? What can you give us?
Okay. I mean, I think one of the spiritual gifts of Presbyterians is we are good with planning meetings. Like
Yes.
we are, and not all clergy are, to
Yeah.
be clear. Um, so if you don't have a clergy group, try to make one.
Okay.
And try to find people who are relatively of different religions, different faiths, different starting places. It can be small. It can be three. It can be you, a rabbi, an imam. Start somewhere and then use the materials. The fact that you have something to talk about tends to grow the group naturally. When they hear a clergy are doing something to get us out of this absolute polarization moment.
Mhm.
Look at July 4th, figure out if there's some sort of community ritual you could do together, like go to the big park in your community, have a prayer with clergy, and maybe that starts your Faith 250 plans. You can look online at faith250.org, and there's all of the texts and all of the plans and schedules, and even like maybe there's somebody in your community already doing this, and you just go to them and say, I want to get involved. And if you're somebody who just wants a hand holding and you don't have time to read through all that, I or several of the other folks who are in it are happy just to Zoom with you or talk to you and say, here's how I would start if I were you. And no, you are not too late. If you think, gosh, July is here and my calendar is booked, it's not like we're going to be fixed by July
Why
4th.
not?
Like, I wish that we could say, oh, sorry, we went ahead and just cleaned up everything. So check out the pictures. I think that could be a good launch pad. Like that could be a good starting time. So
Right.
this group will keep going after that.
Awesome. And I'm not sure, and this is just a question that came to my head in terms of accessibility. If people have
Sure.
issues around actually reading text, do we know if there is accessibility for hearing options or things like that for people to be able to listen to people reading these documents or anything like that? Do you know of any resources in that way, or I'm going to stop talking and let you answer.
Absolutely. I mean, the gathering that we had on Tuesday, the text was read aloud.
Okay.
And even if you only heard like a snippet of it, the conversation was something that people could just join into, and their experiences were valid and welcomed just by virtue of them being there. So
Mhm.
one of the questions is just, where did your ancestors come from, and what was their hope in coming here?
Right.
You don't have to have read the whole of the Declaration of Independence to talk about what makes you feel free.
Right. Yeah. So for those listening, clergy, get involved. Please go to faith250.org. You don't need to be an historian. You don't need to have a background in politics or
Nope.
this history. You just have to have an idea of wanting to love God and love your neighbor, or even just wanting to just be loved. So
And if you're a congregation member and you think your pastor, your clergy are just swamped and they don't have any space in their life to take this on, you can do this with a group of your church members. We've got a little Bible study that is doing this for 2 months until July, and they're getting a lot out of it themselves.
that's awesome. That's very cool. Becca, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This will be available on our YouTube page as well, so you will not lose this content. And please make sure you check out the comments and go read Becca's article and go visit the website. This is good and holy and important work. So thank you. And we'll talk to you guys next week on Friday. The confessions group will be here, so please make sure you come back next Friday to watch. All right,
Awesome.
everybody. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.